Hello, my dear students, welcome back. So today we are going to discuss on Naxal movement. So in the previous video, I explained you about the contribution of Lal Bahadur Shastri as the Prime Minister of India. So today we'll discuss on 3.2, that is Naxal movement. So here is the syllabus for Unit 3, Development of Indian Democracy from 1964 to 1977. So So last time we discussed about Lal Bahadur Shastri. Today we'll discuss on number 4, that is Naxal movement. All these three we have already done. Okay, this all part we have already done in the previous video. You can go through it. Okay, you can easily avail it from my channel. Okay, so now today we'll be doing Naxal movement. So Naxal movement originated in 1967 in the village of Naxalbari in Darjeeling district of West Bengal. Okay, so this village is in Darjeeling district. Okay, Naxalbari. So the movement began as a peasant uprising, and this movement was led by a faction of the Communist Party of India known as CPIM, Communist Party of India, Marxist. Okay, so if you go through it, then most importantly in your textbook you'll come across the causes of the Naxal movement, that is fifth schedule and the ninth schedule. It is given over there in your textbook. So what is mentioned in the fifth schedule and what is there in the ninth schedule, we have to at least understand it. Okay. So fifth schedule, it states that all the forest reserves and the land that are inhabited, okay, those lands inhabited by the scheduled tribes are to be administered by Tribal Advisory Council, which would be independent from state government. That means it is a duty of the state government to set up a Tribal Advisory Council to look after the administration of scheduled areas, scheduled tribe areas, okay, tribal areas, okay, for their betterment and for their upliftment and for their progress. Okay. So, but in real practice, this fifth schedule was not at all implemented. That means the government did not take initiative to implement it. Instead of implementing that, what did they do was that they passed number of legislation and allotted those tribal lands to the pharmaceutical companies. Accordingly, they could now set up pharmaceutical, factories would be set up. Tribal peoples were forcefully evicted from their land, okay, and they started leading a miserable life. And the government was there, but the government was not supporting these tribal peoples. In spite of schedules were there for the protection of these tribal peoples, they ignored those. Okay, fifth schedule was completely ignored. Okay. Many of the pharmaceutical companies and even the companies, mining companies, were given those lands so that they could mine those areas. Okay. Then what is there in ninth schedule? Ninth schedule of the Indian Constitution, which was that means a series of legislations were passed accordingly. So it was observed that there was a large concentration of lands in the hands of few rich people. So the government decided to pass. That means legislations were passed so that lands will be taken from the rich people. That means we can say those who had large areas of land under them. Okay, so they had to surrender it, and those lands will be taken from these people and will be redistributed to the landless peasants. Okay, this way the problem could be solved. Okay, that means at least to some extent equality can be maintained. Okay, so according to the law, Land Ceiling Act was passed. Accordingly, a person can keep a certain areas of land under them. Rest of them they have to give it to the government. And government, what they will do, they will distribute it to the landless peasant. A very good idea. Okay, but this legislation just was on paper. It never took place at the time, but now it is taking place due to Naxal impact of Naxal movement. Okay, so this thing happened. Okay, so now these two were the important factors. That means failure to implement the fifth schedule and the ninth schedule. It is there in your book. So Naxal movement. Number one is land inequality and exploitation of the peasants. That of course was there because wealthy landlords owned vast tracts of land. Okay, that means rich landlords were there who owned large tracts of land, while peasants and the tribals had little, no land of their own. Okay, so now these peasants were forced to work on their land. Okay, and in return they were given very less minimum wages. Okay, minimal wages were given to them, which was not enough to survive. Okay, now the landlords, what did they do was that landlords exploited the peasants. Landlords exploited the peasants. Okay, how they exploited them? By forcing them to work under harsh conditions and giving them minimal wages, leading to widespread poverty and dissatisfaction among the rural population. This was number one point. Okay, land inequality and exploitation of the peasants. Okay, you can start this way also. The next one is failure of land reforms. Yes, I mentioned about 9th schedule and all. So the Indian government promised land reforms after independence to redistribute land and to improve the lives of the peasants. But these reforms were not effectively implemented in many regions of our country. So this also was one of the reasons, failure of land reforms. Okay. Next one is corruption, lack of political will. So of course, this is all about lack of political will. Let me highlight it. Lack of political will and the power of landlords in local politics prevented fair land distribution. It was due to the interference or the power of landlords in local politics that prevented the fair land distribution, leaving many peasants still landless and marginalized. Okay. Now, third point is economic inequalities and poverty. Of course, there is there rural poverty, number one, unemployment, lack of access to basic services like education, healthcare. All these contributed to frustration among the rural and the tribal population. That means the tribal population was frustrated because of those basic services which were not provided to them. Due to that, the rural poverty increased and unemployment was at rise. These communities felt neglected. Of course, they will feel neglected because these communities are the what do you call it? They are the poor people, mostly living in the tribal areas, and the government did not take any steps for their improvement. So these communities felt neglected by the government and disconnected from economic development that was mainly benefiting the urban areas. Okay. Now, number four, influence of Marxist and Maoist ideologies. So this also can be taken as one of the reason. Okay, causes of Naxal movement. So this Marxist and Maoist ideologies inspired first of all Charu Majumdar, Kanu Sanyal, and Charu Majumdar and Kanu Sanyal advocated for the armed struggle to overthrow the existing system. The existing system can be thrown only through armed struggle. Okay, that was their thing. Believed that only way to achieve social and economic equality was through revolution. Okay, this point must be kept in mind that this Marxist and Maoist ideologies believes in this. Okay, that means they can get their rights through revolution. Now there was a local issues and conflicts. In some areas, specific local issues like denial of forest rights to tribal communities, water dispute, forced evictions, further fueled the anger and support for the Naxal movement. Okay, so all these are the causes which gave rise to Naxal movement. Now, let us move on to the route from where this Naxal movement gained momentum. So you can see here, okay, yeah. The spark, the Naxal Bari incident. As I told you, Naxal Bari is a small village in West Bengal which falls under Darjeeling district. Okay, so the immediate trigger for the movement was local conflict between landlord and the sharecroppers. Okay, in Naxal Bari. The sharecroppers, supported by Charu Manjumdar and his followers, resisted the landlords' attempt to evict them from their land. That means the landlords were forcing these peasants to evict them from their land. Actually, that was the landlord's land, but those sharecroppers were doing agriculture on that, or the peasants working on that. Okay, but most probably this was a conflict between landlord and a sharecropper. The who is called a sharecropper? Suppose, for example, I am a peasant, I don't have the land of my own. What can be done? Many landlords are there, they have large acres of land. So I will take those land any certain number, that means decimals of land for my agriculture. So what I will do is that I will do agriculture on that piece of land, and after the agriculture, after the cultivation, whatever product will be there, that will be shared between the landlord and the share, that means the peasant. So they are known as sharecroppers. Okay. On May 25th, 1967, May 25th, 1967, police intervened to suppress the rebellion of this Charu Majumdar and these people who were supporting the sharecroppers. This sparked violent clashes. This event is considered the starting point of Naxal movement. This was the starting point from where the Naxal movement started. Okay, first of all, they formed All India Coordination Committee of Communist Revolutionaries in 1968, which later evolved into a Communist Party of India, Marxist, that is CPI-ML. Okay, and CPI-ML became the main organization leading the Naxal movement. Is that clear? Historic aid document. So it is mentioned in your book somewhere in page number 64. According to my book, he wrote 8 articles known as historic aid document. He wrote 8 articles. Okay, these articles provided the ideological foundation of Naxalites. So it was a ideological foundation of Naxalites. So wrote a series of document known as historic aid document. Okay, so these documents were instrumental in shaping the strategy and direction of the Naxalites. Okay, so the key points of the 8 document are call for armed revolution, focus on guerrilla warfare, mobilization of peasantry, rejection of parliamentary democracy, establishment of revolutionary base areas, role of youth and students. So this were all about the historic 8 document. Okay. What role was played by the students in the Naxal movement? So number one, they were instrumental in spreading the Naxal ideology, spread of ideology. The students were instrumental in spreading the ideology of Naxal movement. Okay, how did they do it? They distributed pamphlets, organized study circles, and held discussions to educate and recruit others. Okay, many students who were influenced by Charu Majumdar and Kanu Sanyal viewed the movement as an opportunity to fight against inequality and injustice. So this also were there. Then mobilization and recruitment. University and student campus became hotbeds for Naxalite recruitment. Student leaders often mobilized their peers to join the movement. They asked their friends to join the movement, and they even encouraged them to participate in protests and rallies and eventually armed struggle. Okay. Now you can see here participation in armed struggles. Some students left their studies to join the guerrilla war groups, guerrilla groups. Okay. Uh, becoming fighters who operated in rural areas of West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, and other regions. Okay, organizing protests and demonstration. So these were some of the roles which were played by the students as well as the youth of Bengal. Okay. Apart from active combat roles, students also provided logistic support. That means logistic support also was provided by the students. Okay. Then voice of the movement in urban areas. Students acted as the urban voice of Naxal movement, using their networks in colleges and universities to influence the public opinion. Okay, so this can also be taken. Government measures against Naxal movement. So first of all, the first is that military and police operations were started. Government has launched numerous military and police operations. Examples include Operation Steeplechase in early 1970s, and later on in 2000, Operation Green Hunt. Okay. Special forces such as Central Reserve Police Force, Border Security Force, specialized units like Commando Battalion for Resolute Actions, Cobra was also deployed. Okay, state police force along with parliamentary unit also extensively got involved into this movement in order to flush out Naxalism. Okay, and legislative measures also were taken, banning organizations like government has banned. You can see here the government has banned Naxalite organizations like communist. This is the one. Okay. Ban Naxalite organized the Communist Party of India Maoists under unlawful activities, that is UAPA. Naxal activities have been classified as acts of terrorism, allowing authorities to impose stricter measures such as detention without a trial, freezing of assets, banning of publication that promote their ideology. Okay, and state and the central government with coordination between state and central government. That means the credit goes to both state as well as central government. So multiple Naxal activities often span multiple states. Reason for its decline in 1970s and its impact. So Naxal movement, which gained significant momentum in late 1960s, experienced a decline in 1970s due to a variety of reasons. This decline had considerable impact. So number one reason, okay, decline of that means decline of Naxal movement in 1970s. Okay, the first one is that Naxalite movement was marked by ideological splits among its leaders. That means disagreement. Point number one, disagreement over the issue. That means their strategy. The next one, government repression. That means the Indian government responded to the Naxalite threat with increased military and police action. Okay, leading to significant repression of Naxal activities. This is point number two. Okay, then anti-Naxal operations were launched, particularly in states like West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, resulting in the arrest, killing, or disappearance of many Naxal leaders and activities. Okay, failure to mobilize mass support. So now there is a that means those who were propagating these ideas and all supporters of Naxal movement, to some extent they went underground. Okay, while the movement initially garnered significant support from peasants and students, it struggled to maintain this momentum as the initial revolutionary fervor began to fade. Okay, though the movement was continuing with the support of peasants and the students, but still the support which they used to get earlier now has started to fade. Okay, and later on the promised immediate benefits, like government started to come up with a lot of reforms. Okay, this is the point, lot of reforms which led the people to understand that after all the government has decided to fulfill their demands, so there is no use continuing the movement. So many of them, they decided to give up Naxalism. Okay, so many benefits like land reform, socio-economic changes, okay, were slow to materialize, leading to disillusion among the supporters. So this is all about from Naxal movement. So we discussed about the rise of Naxal movement, Charu Majumdar and Kanu Sanyal. Okay, so Charu Majumdar, role of Charu Majumdar. So he was one of the important leader of Naxal movement. He was from Bengal. He wrote number of 8 monograph, which is known as historic 8 document, which became the ideology for the Naxal movement. Okay, he was very much instrumental. He was very much instrumental in that means bringing up the Naxal ideology in the minds of all the youths. Okay, so Charu Majumdar, ideological leader. He was one of the primary architect of Naxal movement. He was born in Bengal. Okay, the next one is that Majumdar was actively involved in Naxal Bari uprising of 1967. Okay, so then he formed CPIML. So Charu Majumdar played a very important role in the formation of CPIML. Okay, Communist Party of India, Marxist Leninist. He served as a party general secretary. So he wrote a historic aid document, then leadership and strategy. He was a charismatic leader who inspired many youth and students to join the movement. Okay, then Charu Majumdar was arrested in 1972. Kanu Sanyal was a close associate in Charu Majumdar and played a very important role, okay, in the Naxal movement, mostly in West Bengal. He was mostly instrument mobilizing support from students. Then Sanyal was actively involved in Naxal Bari uprising. Okay, like Majumdar, Sanyal advocated for land reforms and redistribution of land to landless peasants. Okay. After the formation of CPIML, Sanyal became the prominent leader within the party. He was known for his ability to connect with youth and mobilize them. Okay. On 23rd March 2010, was found hanging in his residence near Siliguri. He was 81 years old and was suffering from related old age related to cardiopulmonary ailment. So thank you very much for watching this video. So we'll meet again in the next video with a new topic, that is JP movement. Till then, please take care of yourself. Take care. Bye bye.